Shalom Uvracha, Rabbi Zivi Ritchie, from Yerushalayim Kurdish, but formerly from the United States. From Los Angeles. I'm Rabbi Yosef Edry from the Golan Heights, formerly from Crown Heights, from one heights to another. So we're here at the Kingdom Shluchim together. We met in Dubai a little bit. So you have the scientific proof of God, scientific proof of Hashem. We wanted you to get into that. And go ahead.
Okay, so let me explain it as best and quickly as I can. So this is brand new scientific proof that's never been seen before. And the proof is you take the dimensions of the earth, the sun, and the moon, and you divide them by each other, right? Now, how did we get to this idea to, divide it and do calculations? Well, you start off because we see the moon and we see the sun, and if you notice during an eclipse, the moon covers the sun exactly the same size, apparent size. That's because the sun is bigger than the moon, but it's also further away, but the ratio is the same, which is strange. Why should it be that way? Well, it doesn't have to be that way, but it is. So that alone would be hard to prove that God exists because it's just one thing. But what it does tell you is you better start looking for more things like this.
So wait a minute. So this is you're saying that if there is intent behind creation, intelligence, intent behind creation, that proves that there's a creator?
Well, if you see that everything is random, then you don't see clearly that there's a creator. But if you see things are arranged in a certain way that's extremely unlikely that it's random, then that shows that somebody created it. So what I did is to calculate this.
So wait a minute. The preface is that if we can prove that,
well, nobody has ever even thought of looking, because every time they look, they see randomness.
Randomness.
Yes.
Right. So you're
saying.
But
I looked and I knew where to look, and I found not randomness. So I'm going to show it to you.
So you're saying the order is proof of creator? In a way?
I'd rather show it to you.
Okay.
Okay. So we have here the size of the sun. We have the size of the moon. If you divide it by each other to get the ratio, you get that the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon. Is it 400 exactly?
I'm sorry to ask the boring questions and maybe the tedious questions. How do we measure the sun today? How is that possible to do? Sorry for being ignoramus.
I also don't know. It doesn't matter.
Okay, but it's agreed upon by those who are in the field?
It's very obvious, very agreed upon. There's more than one way to measure the size.
Okay.
And so we have the size of, it's actually not only 400, it's 400.8, which is very, very close to 400. Now, the distance between the moon and the earth is also about 400 times difference. It's actually 390. Now, that looks very suspicious. Wait a second, why is it close to a round number, 400? Well, that alone isn't enough proof, but it tells you, let's look for some more. So if you want to do probability, the way you do it is you do a set. You take, for example, the earth, the moon, and the sun, and then you take all the ratios. So you start off with the ratio of size and distance. You can also mix it up and say ratio of size to distance. You see, it's not just size to size, but size to distance also. Why not, right? So you get 8 different things. Now, if you want to keep doing more ratios, you can do time. The time that it takes to turn around one turn, the speed of it rotating, and if you want to get carried away, you also divide it by the speed of light. Okay? Let's see what happens. What would you expect to get? We have 26 different ratios. What would you expect to see? Nothing special. You'd expect to see randomness. Right? But if you just plot it on the graph, and this is what you see, this is proof of God. This is the proof right here. You take the 400, you plot it at 4, right? You take 10, you plot it at 1. you take 3,000, you plot it at 3. This is the graph, right? Now, you have numbers 1 to 10. If you have 26 different things that should be random, they should be spread randomly from 1 to 10. Spread all over this graph. Mm-hmm. What do we see instead? All of these 26 are right close up to numbers 1, 4, and the number 3. Okay, mm-hmm. 1, 3, and 4. Now, what is the probability?
Let's take a break for a second. I want to say that 4 is a very significant number in Judaism, mm-hmm. for a plethora of reasons. The main one is it's the keys to leave exile. We know that on Pesach we have 4 leshonot shel geula, 4 expressions of redemption. We have the 4 questions that the child asks. So in Judaism it's very important to ask questions. That's how you get to the redemption. That's how you get to the resolution. We also have the 4 children, the wise, the wicked, the simple, and the one who doesn't know how to ask questions, which is even worse than the wicked. So it's important to ask questions. But we have the 4 children, 4 sons. We have the 4 examples of Geula. 4 is also correlated with judgment, with din in certain instances in Judaism. Of course, 3, like you said, is a very important number because on 3 things the world stands: on justice, on truth, and on peace. On 3 things the world exists, it sustains itself, is through the study of the Torah, the service in the temple, or prayer, and acts of goodness and kindness. So 3 is insignificant, and number 1, of course, the creator of heaven and earth, is 1. So those numbers stuck out.
So they're significant, but when I did the calculations of probability, instead of assuming that they're significant and then doing that calculation, I assumed that I'm not taking them into account that they're significant, and instead I said, what are the chances that they repeatedly go to these numbers, or repeatedly don't go into any of the other numbers, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So then what I did is I did a probability. In case, people say, well, it just happened by chance. Well,
one last question. The 26, or what was it, examples you gave there, what are those specific examples?
Okay.
Give me at least
all of the ratios of the size to the size, the ratio of the diameter to that diameter, that ratio of the distance to the distance, the ratios of the distance to the size of the body orbiting.
This is between the moon,
sun, and earth.
The moon, sun, and earth, they all land on 4s.
Yes.
Most of the time?
All of the time.
All of the time?
All the time, either 4, 3, or 1.
4, 3, or 1. No other numbers?
No other numbers, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, not only are they in the range, like what does it mean they're in the range of 3? They're between 2.5 to 3.5. Or they're between 3.5 to 4.5, or between 0.5 to 1.5. Okay?
Right, because calculations are very hard.
They're not out of that range.
Right.
Okay. Now, aside from that, they're also very close to the round numbers. So there's 2. So what I did is I first of all did the probability of them being close to round numbers. Mm-hmm. To do that, if you're interested in how it's done, it's in the book. But what you do is you do the odds. The odds of a random number falling close to a round number, like let's say 4 or 400. Or, what's the opposite of it? Being 450 or being 350. That would be the opposite. So if it falls at 401, it's 50 times closer than being at 450. So the odds of something randomly falling there is 50 times less, right? So you're doing odds. Okay, so you calculate, you divide. If it would be 400.8. So the odds are 49.2 divided by 0.8.
So
you get 61.5. So that's the odds of that one thing happening. Now, what you do with odds or with probability, if you have many things happening, you multiply it. That's the rule of probability. You multiply them together. So you take all of these odds, right, and you multiply them together. And you don't just pick the ones you want. You do a full set. That means you take sun, moon, and earth, all of the ratios, you put them all into the equation to measure the odds of them being close to round numbers. And when you do that 26 times, it should come out, if it was random, the odds should be 1, because sometimes it's close to 0.5, sometimes it's close to a round number, sometimes it's further away. When you do the odds, they balance each other out, and especially when you have a large number like 26, they should balance each other out and become 1. But what do they come instead? 1 over 10 billion. The odds are 1 over 10 billion because all of them are closer. They're generally closer. There's so many of them closer to the odd number.
To the same ones as the other ones.
They're closer to the round numbers, rather than unround numbers. The chances of this happening and showing up like this is 1 in 10 billion.
1 in 10 billion.
1 in 10 billion.
So, to understand, the basic premise of Judaism, for example, and the Torah, is that there's a creator to the world, there's purpose and meaning and significance, and every individual is important, every time is important, and every soul is important, every place is important. The basic premise of those who want to deny God is that nothing is important, everything is chance, everything is random, this moment is not important, you are not important. This is, it also plays out into the day-to-day life. We have, I want to give an example that's a little bit disturbing, but the lady on the corner that's working the corner, she's trying to convince the other person that he's not important, she's not important, time is not important, and nothing is important. Torah tells you how important Israel is, and how important the Torah is, and how important making this world a better place is, and how important all those who joined Israel out of Egypt is. So Torah is all about how important every individual, every time, every soul, every place is. When we talk about order in creation, then we're talking about proving a creator with a design intent of creation. We're not answering yet the question of what the Greek philosophers asked, which is, did God create the world and leave? We're just first of all answering that the world has a creator. We're focusing on that. So so you're saying that the chances of order coming out at random, the way we see it, is 1 in
10 billion.
1 in 10 billion.
That's just the beginning.
If it would be random.
But that's just the
But
beginning.
it's not.
That's just the beginning.
Right, okay.
Because that's just close to any round number from 1 to 10. But it doesn't go just on close to all round numbers. It's specifically the round numbers 1, 3, and 4. So now if we look at this box over here.
Tilt it forward a little. So here is this.
No, this box
over the box here. On the bottom, okay.
Yeah, the box on the bottom. If you have 10 boxes and you throw in 26 balls randomly, they should fall scattered into these 10 boxes. There should be about 2 or 3 balls in each box. Maybe 4, maybe 1 sometimes. But you shouldn't have all of them in 3 specific boxes. Mm-hmm.
So
what are the chances?
This is another...
it's the same thing.
It's the same thing, but a new diagram.
There's another diagram, and there's 2 parts to this probability. Because there's two effects here. One is that they're close to round numbers. 2, they're in the area, in the box, of 3 specific numbers. That is between 0.5 to 1.5, between 2.5 to 3.5, and between 3.5 to 4.5, and they're not out of that range. So then you make boxes. It's another probability calculation. What is the probability of you throwing something into a box of 10 boxes that goes into one of them? It's 1/10, right? What if you want to, let's say you don't count the first ball. The first ball falls into number 3. And then you say, well, what's the chance that a second one goes into number 3? It's 1/10. What is the chance that you're going to throw 2 balls and they'll both go into number 3? It's 1/100th, right? Okay. Now, what are the chances is, let's say you have 1, 3, and 4. You already have 3 balls in there. And you say, what are the chances that another ball will go into either 1 or 3 or 4? Well, it's 3 out of 10, right? And what is the chance that 2 balls will go in? It's 3 out of 10 times 3 out of 10, okay?
So 1 second, I always want to point out that we're taking a very simple sample from creation. We're not getting into we're not taking dirt samples, and we're not going too deep. We're just taking basic measurements of the planets themselves.
Basic measurements that
and
are
distances,
well known.
that are well known and agreed upon.
Very agreed upon, and they're very accurate.
Right,
and
but we're taking that as an example for the rest of everything.
No.
Or a standalone.
No, I'm just taking this, and it's something that is very easy to do the math with, and very easy to show. And there's no questions. There's nothing that you can say in 10 years they're not going to say that the sun is a different size, or that the Earth is a different distance,
or that Pluto lost its license.
The Pluto lost its license doesn't make a difference here. They're not going to say that Pluto changed its size.
Right.
Okay. So now you want to know the probability. Okay. So the probability actually would be, like we said, 3 over 10 times 3 over 10 times it would be not 26 times, it would be 23 times, because I'm not saying that I know ahead of time that 1, 3, and 4 are special. After the first ball falls in there,
it's 10 chances.
After the first ball falls in there, into each one of them, then I say, what are the chances that it happens again repetitively? Okay?
Well, you have reasons to assume that maybe the angle he was throwing is going to go again.
No. There's no reasons. You set it up that it bounces off the walls 100 times, and it's just random.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, so what are the chances? So if you do the math,
using the probability of randomness. Yeah.
You make sure you set up
right. I'm saying,
if you want to do a balls, you set it up that it's. If you do a test with balls in a box, you set it up that it's random. You have it bounce around enough times that there's no way that you're going to be setting it up to fall into certain boxes. Okay? And it also can't fall outside of it. It has to fall into one of the boxes. And you set up the test that it's random, right? That's the way it is. Now, if the solar system was random, that's what it should be. It should be scattered all over the place. But in the end, we see it's in these ratios come out to be multiples of 1, 3, or 4. Now, if you do the calculation based on the same calculation you do on a box with 10 boxes in it, it's 1 over 3 over 10 times 3 over 10, 20. You do it 23 times, and that comes out. Okay, it comes out to 1 in 100 billion. That you should have a case where all the balls don't fall into these other 7 boxes, right? Or it doesn't have to be necessarily 1, 3, and 4. It could be 5, 6, and 7, or it doesn't matter. The point is, it doesn't fall. It keeps out of the 7 other boxes, and not a single ball goes into any one of those 7 boxes out of the 26 balls. The chances of that is 1 in 100 billion. Okay. So the same thing over here with the planets, that the ratios that should be random don't fall into these other numbers. Okay, it should not happen. It's 1 in 100 billion, and not only are they those 3, but they're close to them. They're close to those round numbers, which is another 1 in 10 billion. So the actual probability, you multiply probabilities. That's the way probabilities work. Is 1 in 10 billion times 1 in 100 billion is 1 in 1,000 billion billion. So the chance of the dimensions of the sun and moon and earth and the speeds
all correlating
to coming out that the ratios come out to close to round numbers. These specific round numbers is 1 in 1,000 billion billion. Now nobody has checked this before. Nobody thought to check this.
We talk about a lot. I hear that a lot of people check the pyramids, which are man-made.
I don't know. I don't know about people checking pyramids.
They check the dimensions. They say they line up with the stars.
I have no idea. Okay. I never looked into that.
Okay.
I didn't look into.
But in any case, it doesn't matter because we're talking about a natural phenomenon and not man-made phenomenon.
This is not only it's natural, but it's natural rock. It's just a rock, and the moon is like one big piece of rock, and the earth is a big chunk of whatever.
The temple is built of rock.
Yeah, you have the sun. Okay, it's not rock, it's whatever it is. But the point is, it's not biological stuff.
It's the generic creation itself.
It's something. It's just there. That's a size, right? It's not. You couldn't have manipulated or created it or anything. It's the only God could have created it, and in that way. If it was random. Okay, let's say it was random, but So you'd see random numbers. You wouldn't see this code inside of the dimensions. So you can't claim that someone made it, other than God, because only God could have created the sun in those dimensions, right? You can't claim it's random because that's only one chance in a thousand billion. You can't say that it evolved to be that way because it's not biology.
It doesn't evolve. Organism.
It's not a living organism. It doesn't evolve, right? And there's not even there's no natural explanation for this, and there's not even a purpose for this. That means there's no natural, utility for this that you'd say it would converge to become that way,
or serve a purpose.
No, it's just numbers. Okay, correlations of numbers. So there's no way to explain this. Now, this is the first time anything like this has ever come out. That means all the other attempts at proving God were never this.
They never came from the angle of trying to prove the lack of randomness.
No, they tried to do it in biology, which is a very good proof. But the real hardcore atheists wouldn't accept that because they have their own explanations. They explain it away one way or another.
Right.
There's
nowhere to go.
There is nowhere. They're cornered. There's nowhere to go. Every single atheist that sees this is going to have to admit that God created the world. He has no choice. There's no choice left anymore.
So, Ziv, we spoke a little bit earlier, and we said that today, the status quo of the world, the de facto default position of many nations, is that there isn't a creator. And we see this in all kinds of wars against God, so to speak. We, the West, are modernized. We have found flaws in the Bible. For example, slavery doesn't need to exist. We have abolished slavery, a quote-unquote victory over God's flaws, which actually is ironic because most citizens today of any given country still feel like they're slaves to their given governments and still do not feel that they truly have obtained freedom. And then we have the liberal idea of utopia, of redemption, which is we're going to fix the flaws that God created between the man and the male and the female inequality. We're going to blur the line so bad till nobody knows the difference, and then that's going to be the equality. Again, that itself destroys the uniqueness of male and female. So we have different, of course, Judaism's idea of redemption and a perfect world is justice, truth, and peace, is bringing everything to serenity. Unfortunately, if we try to take the redemption recipe of Christianity with the 4 horses to the apocalypse and whatnot, it doesn't end well for humanity for the most part. And the same is for the Muslim yearnings of a future. Is not perfect for the rest of the world. However, if we go straight to Tanakh and we take the oral tradition into consideration, we can manifest a orderly world. Like I said to you earlier, the number 4 is very significant in exiting exile. And it's really about reining everyone back. We do have free choice, according to Judaism. God says, I give you the blessing, the curse, the life and the death, and choose life, kind of recommendation. But God gives you the responsibility and the choice to make that choice. And I think that if I would have to interpret what you're saying, I'm not a math guy, I'm not a numbers guy, but if I have to interpret what you're saying, it's basically God is putting it in this code. Someone wants to go this far and check how creation is working, he'll have no choice but to realize that there's a creator, and it's going to rein him back into order and into, again, suggesting him to serve God. We can serve each other, we can serve mankind. It says that when God took the Jews out of Egypt, he said, Avadaihem velo avadim la'avadim. They are my servants, and they don't serve other slaves. In God's eyes, if man is serving man, it's just another chain of slavery. And truly, if we can wake up and just like a child which has issues with his father, he has to get over himself and face his father and say, sorry for being an idiot. and maybe we can work something out. So I think that the calculations we're seeing here is trying to rein us back to order, to see Hashem again as King, and again, nothing is by chance. It's also there's a message here of nothing is by chance. Everything is unique, and everything has a purpose, and it's the purpose of the Creator. And it wouldn't be fair to give you a car without a manual to know how to use the car. And that's why we have the Torah, we have the Bible given in Mount Sinai, the desert, which is a place where anyone can pick it up. If you find something in the desert, it's free for all. So even though the Jewish people have a special mission to spread the word of God to all corners, but at the end of the day, if you're created in the image of God as a human being, you have the right to use the Torah to find your way in this world. So, Ziv, closing statements. What do you think? What do you think the scientific, mathematical, psychology worlds should take away from your calculation? Do you recommend people cross-check your work, build on your work? Do you believe that nation states should make it policy that God is real and that we need to figure it out? I know that in America, I just finished with that, in America people swear on the Bible without having a clue how to learn it. And honestly, maybe that's the Jewish people's fault. We need to spread the Torah a little bit more vastly. But what do you think the culmination of your calculations should be in a professional setting?
Okay, so this is new. That means people have not known this before. It's new information, and it's new serious information. And so people can't say, oh, I've heard this before, we've heard proofs, and we don't agree, and let's agree to disagree. They can't say this for this. They can't ignore this. This is not a repeat and a rehash of everything else. Mm-hmm. There are reasons why they didn't accept the previous attempts to prove, and all those reasons do not work on this proof. So this is actually world-changing. This is something that if you take it to a court of law, it would stand up in a court of law as evidence. Okay, you have to look at it, read it, look at the evidence, and any court would have to admit and would have to certify that
there's a lack of randomness.
Yeah, the world is not random. It was created in a certain way on purpose by the creator of the world. Okay? Now, what does that mean? That means everything changes. That means all the people in the world change, all the governments change, all the laws change. This is what this means. The whole world, everybody in the world changes. The atheists admit that they're not atheists anymore. They've seen for the first time actual proof of God.
Well, I would say that the Torah starts off with the story of creation. Rashi right away jumps in and says that the reason we're speaking of the story of creation instead of just getting to the laws is in order to remind people that the world is created by God, and He decides who is the owner of what property and what, because God knows that at the end of times they are going to come to Israel and say, you guys have stolen the land. And Rashi wrote this some 500 years ago, or something like that. So how would he know that today the Jewish people would have this issue that people are saying you guys stole the land? But that's a fact the fact on the ground. Well, if it's true that God is the creator of heaven and earth, and if it's true that there is intent and there is creation in this world, then it's also true that the land of Israel belongs to the children of Israel. And this has significance that span across Rome, because Rome has to, the redeemers have to go back to judge Rome, and to God will be the kingdom, as we know. In other words, this has ramifications for the papacy right now, which is kind of waiting for Mashiach, waiting for something to move in order to give that wealth to the Messiah in their eyes. But if we go and say that in other words, this is a piece in the puzzle. I'm not going to say that this fixes the whole puzzle, but this is important in the puzzle of today's politics, I think, and of today's international perspective on world events, I think.
Yeah, what we need to do is, this needs to be peer-reviewed. I'm challenging anybody in the world, any scientist, any atheist, to try to disprove this. You can't.
Wait.
There's nothing there.
Let them get to work.
You can go to work. What's nice about this book is that it's simple enough for most people to read it and understand it and check it and validate it with the knowledge that they have. That means all you have to do is go to Wikipedia, look at the size and velocities of it's just there, go to Wikipedia/sun, Wikipedia/earth, and Wikipedia/moon. All the numbers are there. You take a calculator, you divide them by each other. The calculations, I always took averages. Always consistently, if you want to do math correctly, you have to be consistent. That means I always took if the orbit is elliptical, I take the largest, the smallest, divided by 2. The largest plus the smallest divided by 2 in every single of the calculations. Okay? I explain in the book how I did all the calculations. So you take the orbit, you divide it by the size of the orbit, you take the size of the dimensions of the Earth, the time, all of those things. You're consistent when you do it. Okay? So there's no monkey business, you're not playing around, you're not cheating, use accurate calculator, use a calculator that goes to like 10 digits, okay, to be very accurate. And anyone can check to see if there's any mistakes here.
And if a
high school student can check this.
And anyone who wants to find your work, where would they find it?
So it's Scientific Proof of God by Zivi Ritchie. You can buy it on Amazon. You can also get it for free download from my site. My site is 263672.com. Those are all numbers. I wanted anybody from any part of the world, even if they don't speak English, they can see the numbers and easily get to my site. 263672.com. Okay? Now, you can go to the site. I already have this as a free download in English, in Hebrew, and Portuguese. And we're working on all the rest of the languages also. There's also some YouTube videos explaining it. For some people prefer to hear it rather than to read it. So I have, where I'm reading the book and showing it to you. And everyone's invited to download it. You can download it, forward the book, forward the link, or just download the file and send that to people in WhatsApp or as an attachment in an email. You can, if you want, download the whole book, take the PDF, send it to a printer, print 10,000 copies, and give them out.
So you give people.
I'm giving as long permission to as long as you don't make any changes. You take the PDF, you print it, and so you don't add anything to it, you don't take away anything from it, you don't change it. Okay, but just
to spread the word.
To spread the word, you can even sell it if you want. You don't have to give me money. You can't change anything here, okay? That's it. That's all you have to. And print it, give it out, send it, links, whatever it is. Spread the word. We got to get this out fast and far, quickly, because this is the real thing. This is something that everybody in the world, after they see this, everybody in the world is going to know for a fact that God created the world.
Thank you so much, Ziv. I'm Ben Yossi Edry. I'm the Sanhedrin Initiative Advisor. We have 30 judges and advisors. We're fulfilling the halacha of Ein Laman and Melech Elal Bebeis Din Shel Shivim. We're planning on fulfilling what the Rambam says, establishing a Sanhedrin, finding a prophet according to Jewish halacha, crowning a king, eradicating Amalek, building the third temple. These are physical commands that we're working on as part of the Rebbe's instructions to prepare the world for the coming of Mashiach, or accept Mashiach, depends how you translate Kabbalah. But we're working on that, and I think that your work is very interesting and very important today. If it can change the hearts and minds of people throughout the world, I think that would be beneficial. On one hand, we do have different faiths that do believe in God, so just a faith in God alone is not enough. Of course, once you believe in God, you have to understand that God has created a covenant with 600,000 Jews in the middle of the desert called the Jewish people, the children of Israel, and they have license to distribute and explain and pass justice and be the mechokek, the law bearer in this world. So if you're trying to get on board with studying the Torah and understanding God's will, make sure it's under rabbinical supervision so that you actually get true Torah information and not just something that's made in China. So with that being said, let's all do our part in bringing Mashiach, goodness and kindness, and all the best.